Welcome, Sam Weller, mini racer. Thank you very much for coming on the show and getting involved. But yeah, how are you?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thank you very much. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity to come on the show.
Absolutely, no worries. So my first question, as it is with all my guests, is how did you first become interested in motorsport?
So I've always been interested in cars. I think that's kind of that's rubbed off on me from my brothers, who are all three of them are quite a bit older than me. And then motorsport side of things really started when I was at college. So I didn't have like a traditional sort of go-karting background into motorsport. I actually started off in motorsport by working in Formula Ford, and that was basically my first kind of job after leaving college. Um, and that's kind of where my love of motorsport really developed. I always wanted to drive,
Yeah,
but I always just thought it was unachievable. The money involved and stuff like that. It just made me think that it's out of my reach. So from that point, I worked for a couple of Formula Ford teams. I took a little bit of a break from it for 3 or 4 years, and then I got involved in the Mini Challenge. I actually worked for Accelerate Motorsport for a little while,
yeah,
weirdly. Um, I worked for up until quite recently, actually, off and on. Um, did that, and that again, that kind of brought me into the Mini Challenge, and how potentially affordable it could be. So that's where I did my first kind of full season of racing in the Coopers, back in, I think, 2016, something like that was my first year. But yeah, it was racing that at the time I could sort of just about afford,
yeah.
uh, and it was really really good. But no, actually going back a bit from there really was, I did a scholarship called Want to Race.
Yeah.
Um, that was actually a present one of my brothers got me, and we both went to this scholarship. And I did really well. I actually won it, and that was kind of the thing that sort of kicked me up the arse. I was like, if I already work hard and get some experience, then it's something I could actually potentially do.
Yeah.
Have got a little bit of speed in me. So yeah, if I crack on with it, it could be possible.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, my first, going back to the mini challenge, my first race car was actually, I took like a bank loan out to buy it,
Yeah.
which is nuts, really. But yeah, did that, and yeah, did really well. I was, you know, I think like anyone when they first start racing, especially for me, I'd never done any go karting or anything like that. It was nerve wracking the first few races.
Yeah.
No, I really kind of like a fish out of water, but yeah, I really kind of gelled into it well and got the bug quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Would you say, motorsport was always an area you wanted to work in, whether it was driving or obviously the engineering and mechanical side?
Yeah, yeah. So I've done a few different. I've been involved in a few different trades, during my sort of working career. But it's always, whether it's I've been doing, working in a completely different industry. I've always been involved with cars, and doing
Yeah.
whether it's just on my own cars or my own race car. So yeah, it always comes back to that. And for me now, um, running hybrid tune, and racing in the mini challenge, it's all about cars now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's all just added up, and you know, we've everyone here has obviously all got we've all got a passion for cars and doing driving around in circles really really quickly with them. So yeah, it's kind of drawn me into it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, you obviously mentioned hybrid tune a minute ago. Where did that actually start? How did they get started?
Yeah, so it was. It's myself and basically my number one engineer on my car, Matt, who started hybrid tune. That
Yeah.
was like when we properly started, it was like 2014. And that was basically started when I started racing in the Coopers. So I think we had hybrid tune up and running for a year or so, and then we started racing in the mini challenge. So that's kind of where it started. In the first year in the mini challenge, we ran another driver, Stuart McLaren. So we straight away kind of went into the team, and that's just that's built snowballed from how it started, and this is kind of where we are now. We've got a nice brand new facility with state of the art sort of dyno and workshop.
Yeah.
So it's really it's all really based around our sort of love for motorsport and what we do at the weekends, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And to anyone watching at home, sort of explain what you guys do at Hybrid Tune.
Yeah, so essentially we're a vehicle performance center. So we do everything that anything you can think of that equals performance from a motor vehicle. So whether it's suspension setups and stuff like that, brakes, but predominantly we do engine work. So ECU calibrations, engine sort of upgrades, bits and pieces like that, all in the aid of getting more power from an engine, and all in aid of making a car go around a track faster.
Absolutely. Well, we've obviously mentioned a few times the mini challenge. Obviously, I know you said you've done some stuff with Accelerate Motorsport. I presume that's how you sort of came across the championship.
Exactly. Yeah. So I first spoke to Justina Williams. Must have been 20. Christ, I don't know. Maybe 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
And started working for them. It was right at the beginning of the infancy of when they started doing the current JCW car.
Yeah.
Because I remember being involved, starting to be involved with the sort of first few of those cars. It kind of started with that, really. And weirdly enough, I actually remember the first race weekend I did for Justina was a race weekend at Brands GP.
Yeah.
I ran a young lad called Bence Battler, and that was actually in my car I've got now that I race in the mini series.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of on the first cars, there's loads of sort of pen marks and stuff and initials of the drivers that drove the first few.
Yeah.
And I remember I bought my car, and when I started pulling it apart, I saw his name was stamped on a few things. So,
mate, that's very cool.
But yeah, that's how it started, mate. Just basically being the number one engineer on cars, working for Accelerate, and kind of from that, that showed me the Cooper series, and I was like, okay, well, the cars aren't actually that expensive.
Yeah.
And they're pretty reliable. So that kind of led me onto them.
Absolutely. We've obviously sort of discussed we've obviously discussed budget, quite a bit, and obviously it's a big factor of going racing. How good is for Coopers as a series to get started in, and how did you find it getting into it, really, especially with stuff like budget and damage and all that horrible stuff that comes with racing?
Yeah, I think it's one of the best feeder series, because when I raced in it, you didn't have, we weren't on the Toka package.
Yeah.
I don't know what the entry fees are now. I should imagine they're a little bit more, but right now that series, you get 2 rounds on the touring car package, which is amazing, really, for a series like that. And the cars are relatively cheap. You can buy a bare car. You can probably build one for sort of 10,000-12,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Which in race car terms is not a huge amount of money. And if you treat it well, there's a good chance that you can actually sell that car on again for pretty much what you either paid for it or what it costs you to build it. But then, you have got to consider, obviously, like you say, I tend to try and not consider crash damage because I try and not do any damage to the car. But tyres and fuel and stuff like that is expensive. But for the kind of series it is, I think it's very, very affordable, really. When you consider, the stepping stones, you're kind of up to the JCWs, and then you're obviously in a prime feeder series for the touring car. So.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to ask, sort of after, how long did you spend in the Coopers, by the way?
So 2 seasons in the Coopers.
Yeah. And so obviously first season in JCWs, how much of a step up would you say it's been? Because they're quite a bit more powerful, aren't they, the JCW cars?
Yeah, they are. And I've said this before, I feel a bit of a fraud for being called like the rookie of this year, like getting the rookie crown, because I've had my JCW for just over 3 years now.
Yeah.
So I've actually driven it quite a lot.
Yeah.
I've just not done a full season. But they are very different to the Cooper. Actually driving the car is still driving a car, but it's to get a really, really good lap time out of it. It's a tricky car to drive. They're very stiff at the back end, and they move around quite a lot underneath you. And if you're not fully on top of the car, then it does feel very nervous. And that's certainly when I first started driving them. That was really kind of off-putting in a certain way, because you're like, oh, car just feels like it wants to try and pitch me off at the nearest barrier.
Yeah.
Once you get to grips with it, they're really good.
And absolutely, and I think another great thing is the racing's really close. It's always really exciting. What would you say makes this championship so brilliant?
Well, you've got realistically anyone in the top 10 has either won races in lower series or is a very capable driver. So you've got very, very good drivers who they all want to win. They all know how to win. And you've got cars which are the same. You've got obviously setup changes and stuff like that, but the cars are all the same. So you maybe make a slight mistake in qualifying and it costs you a couple of tenths, and it could be the difference between like being third and eighth.
Yeah.
So it's just so close. And I think that race 3 we've just had at Donington,
yeah,
I think does show that it was not ideal from my point of view, because I'd obviously like to have been at the front, but how close it was at the end, considering how different kind of tyre strategy people were on that weekend, I think was pretty good. And it has been like that all year, isn't it? You've only got to look really at how close the top 2 are. I think there's 4 points between the guy and Dan and Max in first and second, so it's very, very close.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, looking back in your first season in JCWs, how would you sum it up? How would you say you've done?
I think we've done well. I think it's been a year where I've learned a lot more about that car than I thought I would. Considering I've owned the car for a while, I was involved in building some of them. We've learned a hell of a lot about setting the car up, and just how to put everything together in a race weekend. There's a lot that goes on in a really successful team that you just don't see. The way the cars are prepared and the way you sort of build up to the weekend, and how you build up from FP1 right through to race 3 or race 2. I feel like I would have liked to have got in the top 3, which is still possible. and I'd really quite like an overall win, which I'll be pretty disappointed if I don't get at Brands Hatch. But I think if we do it again next year, I think we'd do really well, because yeah, like I said, we know a hell of a lot more about how to set these cars up now than we did at the start of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say has been the highlighter for you? And what circuit did you enjoy driving the most in the JCW?
It's got to be Snetterton. Snetterton's my home circuit. We're based just outside of Diss, which is half an hour away from Snetterton.
Yeah.
I could probably drive that circuit with my eyes shut. Despite the car obviously, wasn't set up perfectly. We were still, I think we were second in qualifying, and we had a third and a second in race 1 and race 2. And I think I got the fastest lap of the weekend on that one. So yeah, Snetterton's the circuit I know the best. I've generally had the best results there. So yeah, it's going to be that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good choice. It's my home circuit as well. So we live just a few miles from Snetterton, so definitely a good choice, and I suppose a good place to start for JCW mini season as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It kind of set us in a good steed. We've been, I think we ended up that weekend third in the championship, and we've been floating around that kind of third area most of the year. So yeah, definitely a good one for us to start at.
Absolutely. Well, I won't keep you for too much longer. You've been brilliant and given a really good insight. Sort of looking to Brands Hatch this weekend. I can't believe it's almost the end of the season. I presume a win and to get on the podiums for aim. But what are your expectations of this weekend?
Well, there's probably going to be carnage between the first two drivers in the championship. I'm anticipating.
That's going to be brilliant.
Only 4 points between them. So I think, so they'll probably fire each other off. Davidson will probably get in it as well, and then they'll have 3 DNFs and we'll come through and win the championship.
That sounds good. It sounds good. Well, we're coming along to Brands Hatch, so no matter what the weather, so I'm sure it'll be lovely and cold. But yeah, I'll make sure I come and say hello to you guys, and it should be a good weekend. I can't believe it's almost the end of the season, and what a place to finish the season at. How would you sum up the Brands Hatch GP circuit? Yeah,
it's a mega circuit that we don't get to drive enough.
Yeah,
there's obviously very few test days there, but it's quite difficult because you kind of you do Brands Hatch that bit, and then you turn left at Surtees.
Yeah.
And then it basically turns into a kind of mini Nürburgring.
Yeah.
And because I'm trying to think if there's one, probably the first corner onto the GP loop, you can just about see the apex. But after that, it's all pretty much blind apex, just turn in by feel, take a lot of curb. So yeah, it's a challenge through the back of the circuit, definitely, and that's where most of the time is going to be made up. So hopefully the first sort of couple of test sessions on Friday, I can really get back into the groove of the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And where would you say is the best place for overtaking? I'm just saying this because I'm going to be a spectator there, and we want to see some good racing, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you've always got the entry into Paddock Hill Bend, haven't you? And into Druids. I think it's difficult really to overtake through the GP bit because it's so fast. Unless the driver in front of you makes a bit of a mistake, there's no real opportunities to get alongside. So I'd say maybe I think it's Hawthorne's the first right-hander GP loop. Maybe is an overtaking spot, but I think most of it realistically is going to be on the Indy circuit still.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it should be a good weekend of racing. Obviously, we've got the off season coming up very soon, which is a racing fan, it's pretty daunting really without racing for however long. But look, aiming to the future, I presume want to stay in JCWs for a bit more. But are there any sort of other aims or goals for the future that you want to achieve?
I mean, I would like to I'd like to stay in the JCWs and win the championship would be my ultimate aim. And after that, I think, look at options. I'm sure everyone in that championship is thinking touring cars.
Yeah.
I'm definitely included in that, but at the same time, you've got to be realistic and think, it's another huge step up again in budget, and arguably, the quality of the drivers in the touring cars is even better. So I think, first step for me is just to try and win the championship in the JCWs, and if I stay in the JCWs and I can race there for a few more years, then great. I'm happy at that level, to be honest. I think it's really mega driving those cars and being on the touring car pack. So yeah, just see what comes our way, mate, really.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so very much for coming on the show for a chat. It's been great to hear about all the minis and all the hybrid tune stuff. So yeah, best of luck for Brands Hatch, and hopefully see you there.
Great. Yeah, we'll see you there, Louis. We'll be in the Ginetta paddock somewhere.
Yeah. Perfect. Nice one. All right, then. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.